It's no secret that divorce is hard on teenagers. But what you might not realize is that you're actually making it harder for them, making it worse instead of making it better. And there are two huge mistakes that I see a lot of my clients making when it comes to working with their teen children. And the two mistakes are either not sharing enough or sharing too much. And we're really talking about emotional experience here. So it's the mistake of either being too stoic, too rigid, too cold, or oversharing and letting your kids see all of the pain and the despair and the agony that you're in. Both of these styles, both of these approaches are really, really bad for your kids. It will make the divorce harder, and it will also cause them, either way, it will impact the way they handle their own emotions and their ability to process this and be resilient through this divorce and into their own relationships going forward. So how you navigate this with your children right now is really important. So where is that line? How much is too much to talk to them about what's going on with you and what this is like? How much is too little? How do you know where that line is with teenagers? In this video, I'm going to give you some examples so that you can really see the difference between undersharing, oversharing, and what it actually looks like to share in a way that's helpful for your children. But I will tell you, you guys, this gets a lot easier to navigate when you learn how to effectively regulate the things that you're feeling. Because really what you're trying to do with your teenage kids is help them navigate the emotions they're feeling, right? They're probably frustrated and angry. They're probably scared and anxious. They might even be feeling some shame or guilt if they're taking some of this onto themselves. Right? And so if you want your kids to get through this, to be able to move on and have healthy relationships, to be able to have relationships that last and have families of their own, I know this is a big concern for a lot of my clients that, what are we modeling for our children through this divorce? Right? They're going to learn that it's okay to give up on your family. They're going to learn that it's okay to just walk away and not try to fix things. It's if you want your children to really learn how to be in healthy, stable, fulfilling relationships and work through conflict instead of walking away from it, they need to be able to deal with their own emotions effectively, because it is those emotions and often our inability to work with them effectively that causes all of the conflict leading to divorce, and it also causes our inability to reconcile that conflict as a couple. It's much easier to help your children navigate their own emotions when you know how to navigate yours. And I'll tell you, most people, men and women both, are dealing with their own emotions either through tyranny or anarchy. They're either shutting everything down and off and not creating any room for what they feel, or they're allowing those emotions just to run wild and make every decision for them. And the way we deal with our own emotions is how we're going to deal with other people and their emotions too. Right? So if you tend to have that tyranny, self-governance, where you suppress your own feelings, you're probably going to undershare with your kids. You're going to be stoic and tough and not let them see how much this is hurting you. And you're going to be there, the rock, the provider, the father. Right? If you have more of an internal anarchy going on, you might be oversharing, telling them how incredibly difficult this is for you, letting them really see your grief and your pain and your despair. An unwanted divorce throws your nervous system into an automatic fight or flight response, causing you to lose sleep, lose or gain weight, struggle to focus at work, have panic or rage attacks, and ultimately damage relationships with the people you care about the most. Because of this, learning effective nervous system regulation is the only rational response to a separation or divorce, and that's exactly what I teach in my free masterclass. Type masterclass into the comments below and I'll send you the link. Okay, so let me give you some concrete examples of mistakes that I have seen men make with their children. And I see these again and again. A big one is being really intentional about not speaking poorly about your ex-wife, about their mother, but then sneaking in passive-aggressive comments. So you might say things like, well, I need to be honest with my kids, right? And they need to know that you should fight for a relationship and not just give up. And so you might find yourself saying things like, yeah, well, your mother has decided that she doesn't love me anymore and doesn't want us to live together as a family. Right? And you have this kind of passive-aggressive messaging going in, being like, look, your mom chose this. I didn't. She made the wrong choice. This isn't how you should be. Passive-aggressive comments can sneak in there. If you are really torn up about this emotionally and you don't have a good set of tools and a good support system for regulating your own emotional experience, you might find yourself using your children, your teenage children, especially if you have kids who are somewhat self-aware and emotionally intelligent. You might just let it all out on them. You might find yourself sobbing openly, telling them how hard this is for you, how overwhelmed you are, and how you feel like a failure. I see a lot of fathers honestly doing this with their teenage daughters, especially if their teenage daughters are a little bit older. It is not your daughter's job to parent you, and she needs you to be the parent, right? So this kind of emotional oversharing is not helpful for her either. At the same time, acting like you're fine and don't feel any pain at all is not helping your daughters or your sons. And often when you try to act really stoic and not show any pain, your emotions come out as frustration, and you're shorter with your kids than you want to be. You might lash out, you might yell at them or punish them, especially if they're acting out their emotions. So what do we want to do instead? What does success look like? I'll tell you what I see men doing when they learn how to work with their own emotions and they learn how to self-govern in a healthier way. They're able to do that with their kids. And so let me give you some examples of what that looks like. And these are things that I've actually seen some of my clients do with their teenage children. Maybe the most beautiful thing that I see my clients doing is finding a quiet, safe time and place to sit down with one of their children at a time, tell them honestly that this divorce is hard, that it's hard on you, that you know it's hard on them, and then asking them how they're doing. Do they want to talk about it? If you do this, you've got to listen without judgment, and you have to see them. You have to see their best self and hold them in high regard, regardless of what is coming out. And so a lot of children, especially teenagers, will start to rebel and act out. And they might be doing this anyway, and then divorce comes along and it gets even worse. And a lot of parents don't know how to deal with this, and so they're yelling, they're punishing, their kids are grounded, they lose access to this, they can't drive the car. When you're doing that, you're punishing the behavior, but you're missing the child that is behind that behavior. So instead of getting upset, instead of punishing your children if they get suspended from school or they do something else that's damaging, or you catch them at a party or getting drunk, instead of yelling and punishing, try stopping and just saying, hey, I know there's a lot going on right now and this behavior isn't like you. I'm here for you. Do you want to tell me about what's really going on for you right now? Are you seeing a pattern here in these examples I'm giving? Right? I'm talking about inviting your children to share what they're feeling instead of either locking down what you're feeling or putting it all on them. Right? All of the mistakes, the oversharing and the undersharing, that's when you're making it about you. You're trying so hard to manage your emotions or to feel better or to get through this that you're really focused on you and what you need. You've got to be able to step out of that and think about what your kids need. What they need is for you to be able to hear them. They need a place where they can express and process and talk about what they're feeling without you taking it personally or making it about you. This is why getting effective emotional regulation strategies for yourself is so key. Because if you are really in the pain of this, if you are feeling regret, resentment, anger, shame, guilt, anxiety about the future, if all of those big emotions that divorce has created in you are just running rampant and you're not able to effectively regulate them, you are not going to be able to sit and listen to your teenage kids talk about how hard this is. Let me show you what's going to happen. So you try what I just said, and let's imagine you've got all these big emotions in you that you are just battling to keep control of and not get overwhelmed, but you're like, okay, well, Rachel said I should talk to my kids this way. It sounds like a good idea, so I'm going to try it. And you sit down with your kid and you say, okay, this isn't like you. I know this is really hard right now. It's hard for me too. Can you tell me about what's going on? What is this really about? And your kid is like, you know what? This divorce sucks. It sucks. I hate this. I hate going back and forth from your house to mom's house. And you know, all my friends live close to mom's house, but all my clothes are at your place. And it just sucks. I can't do this. It's so stressful. If you are feeling all these big emotions and you don't know how to regulate them, they are going to all get lit up when your child says that. And so you're going to respond. You're either going to get defensive and you're going to be like, look, you know, I really didn't want this, but your mom, right? And now here we are, we're blaming mom. Or you're going to take it all on you and be in that shame and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I never wanted this for you. And I've let the family down and I just can't believe I let this happen, right? Either of those responses are about you, right? What you didn't want, how you messed up, how you feel guilty, how you feel angry. That's not what your children need from you. Now you're asking them to parent you instead of being the parent for them. When you learn to effectively regulate those emotions so that you don't need someone else, your kids, your ex-wife, a therapist to do it for you. When you learn, when you have the skill set that you need, right? This is not about strength or weakness. This is not about being a good or bad person. This is about, do you have the skills to manage and regulate your own emotions, or have you never learned them? Once you learn them, you can self-regulate, and then you can actually be present with your child when they say, you know what, Dad, this sucks and I hate it. And you can say, you know what, I hear you. I can hear this is really hard and moving back and forth sucks. I get it. Do you want to tell me more about it? Tell me more. I want to know what that's like for you. Right? And now you're giving them a place to let this out, to be heard, to be seen, to share what they're feeling without having to be afraid that they're hurting you or that you're going to attack their mom, or that, right? You're giving them the freedom to be a child who's having big feelings that can be heard safely without being afraid that they're going to hurt you or their mother by sharing what they feel. Because this is what a lot of children learn in divorce. And so they learn to stifle and shut down. They learn to withdraw and say everything's fine, nothing's wrong, it's okay. And then all of their emotional pain has to come out in another way as well. So if you want your kids to be resilient and healthy and capable of healthy relationships themselves, they need to be able to talk about what they're feeling, and they need to feel safe doing it. If you're not emotionally regulated, if your nervous system is just all over the place and you're really activated by the things they say, you're not going to be able to create a space for them where they can learn how to do that. Because that's really your role as a parent, is helping them learn how to regulate, helping them learn how to talk about what they're feeling instead of suppressing it or hiding it or letting it lash out in nasty ways later. Right? You want them to have these skills because you want them to have healthier relationships than you and their mother were able to have. Right? And nobody taught you these skills. But now you have to learn how to pass them on to your kids. And this is why in all of these videos, I always circle back to your nervous system, your emotional regulation. Because when you learn that skill set for yourself, you're going to be able to create the kind of space your kids need. Instead of oversharing or undersharing or trying to control things one way or the other, you're going to be able to just show up and be present and listen and create that space where your kids can work through what they're feeling safely. The fight or flight response that you experience when you go through an unwanted divorce is not a voluntary response. It's not something you can just shut off. The impact of being in that involuntary state for too long can be really devastating. We're talking overwhelming emotions, shaking, heart palpitations, lashing out in rage, shutting down and withdrawing, being unable to show up at work, struggling to be present with your children, and finding yourself unable to trust or feel safe in the world. And all of these symptoms, they are not mental. This is part of a specific set of physiologic changes that happen in your body when you go into a fight or flight response. They happen when your nervous system is activated, and the symptoms go away when your nervous system comes back into balance. If you want to get off the emotional roller coaster, if you want to stop the intrusive and ruminating thoughts so that you can be really present with your kids, still be successful in your career, make sound legal decisions, and really be capable of moving forward from the separation or divorce, it is essential that you learn to effectively regulate your nervous system. And that's exactly what I'll teach you how to do inside my free masterclass. So just type masterclass into the comments below this video, and I will send you this free tutorial on effective nervous system regulation.